Redline Oil, and what does Mark think about what's going on in the world of drag racing and all of these things? It's funny you ask, because we are going to have the answers. Mark Beatty from Redline Synthetic Oil going to join us right after this.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win.
Formulated to win.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Formulated to win, proven by me.
Proven by me.
Proven by me.
Redline Oil, formulated to win, proven by me.
And he joins us now from the Redline Oil Studios. What's up, Mark? How are you?
I'm doing really good. How about you, Joe?
Good. So we just learned a lot. I can see you down there in the ready room. We know when Tony Schumacher is starting. We know about the operation. We know where he got his trucks and trailers. We got a lot of information. I know you love the nitro ranks, and part of having you on, we're going to learn a little bit about Redline Oil, but we're going to put a face to the logo. You've got a tremendous passion for drag racing and motorsports in general. Where did that come from?
You know, it started when I was really young. You know, I went to Vandermeer Speedway. I was born and raised in Denver, so it all started at Vandermeer Speedway, and I went up there for a bracket race just on a Saturday. I was just a teenager, and it just I got hooked. I got hooked instantly, and the rest is history. I've had the opportunity to spend some time. I toured with the USAC Super Modified car for a while. Did a time in road racing between Formula Bs and Formula Fords, and so I've kind of touched a lot of aspects. But drag racing it just kind of stuck, And then I was fortunate enough to spend 30 some years working with and for V Gaines, and it was really fun when you're doing all the Motorplex people or whatever, because the Wally right here to my right is when we won Pro Stock at the Motorplex in the year 2000. So it was kind of fun when we were doing that. I'm thinking, well, there's my Wally. So kind of a neat deal. So.
Very neat. Very neat. And you're a pro stock guy also. So it's not just all about nitro as much as that's a big deal. If you were working with V, that's some hardcore stuff. We miss him. I miss him. I know a lot of other people miss him being out there on a regular basis. Just a cool character.
Yeah, I still talk to him about once a week, and just friggin' love the man. Like I said, spent 30 some years with him, and it was tough. It was tough when the opportunity came for me to venture to Houston, Texas, and the Redline Oil deal. It meant that I had to leave my buddy, and so we had lots of conversations about that before I left. But he is he taught me a lot. He taught me so much about business and so much about how to treat people and the way to act and stuff. And so I owe him a great deal.
Amazing. All right, so let's get into it a little bit. You guys are on board with WFO Radio, and each week we're playing spots and we're talking a little bit about it. Buddy Hull just referenced, my sportsman racing, and I think you and I had a conversation in reference to Larry Spider-Man McBride being on a couple of weeks ago, and he said a line that you repeated, and I guess it's true, but this is what I want to know about, right? Like Redline is one of the first big name synthetic motor oils that I remember in drag racing. A Redline. There are a lot of oils that are good oils, but some stand out, and that's where you guys position yourself. Talk a little bit about the product and how you got to that level.
Well, Redline started in 1979, and our original chemist, Roy Howell, is still with us, and he's still a part of our life every day out in California. And he had a vision. He understood some of the challenges because he was a car guy in the past, and he understood some of the challenges. And so, from the very onset, they set the standard that every lubricant product that they want to make or that we're ever going to make is all going to be a true PAO ester full synthetic product. In America, the term full synthetic gets a little bit watered down because you can actually start with a petroleum group 1 or group 2 oil, throw in enough additives and call yourself a synthetic oil. But see, nowhere else in the world can you do that. You can't do that in Europe. You can't do that anywhere. So to be a true synthetic, you have to be PAO and ester based. And so they set out starting the company that way, and that's exactly the way it's always going to stay, as a true full synthetic. So it does, to a degree, sets us apart. I mean, Larry McBride is right. In this day and age, I'll never say a bad word about any competitor that we have. There are a lot of quality oils out there, but it just depends on what you're looking for, how hard you're pushing it, what you want the results to be, and some of those things, and how does it handle fuel dilution, and all kinds of things like that, especially in the top fuel ranks and things like that. So we're in a really good spot. We've stuck by our guns of who we want to be, and to be perfectly honest with you, Joe, it honestly makes my job really easy because the product speaks for itself.
I see the logo everywhere. And you do help a lot of nitro teams, but I want to talk about my audience. And some of them have got performance cars, and some of them have got road cars, and some of them want to support the show. I tell them to get water wetter, like there's a lot of different products. But talk about how using drag racing is helpful in bringing on brand awareness when people are going to AutoZone.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, win on Sunday, buy on Monday. A lot of they use that for a lot of the manufacturers, right? Well, for us, it's really the same thing. I mean, we take our technology that helps race teams win on Sunday, and that same technology works for street applications, truck applications, the daily driver type of applications. Now, the chemistry might be a little bit different because, like in race oils, you don't necessarily worry about detergents and things like that. But on the street oils, obviously you change the chemistry around to where it fits the application. So yeah, we have a whole line of oil products. We call it our hot rod oils or our blue label oils that are designed for street vehicles, motorhomes, tow vehicles, things along those lines. And like water wetter, like you mentioned. I mean, water wetter was actually the product that created that entire super coolant category. I mean, it was the first one ever out there. And so, we've obviously continued to expand on that. We now make antifreeze that has water wetter technology and things along those lines. And over the years, of course, our competitors have caught hold of that, and they're introducing products, and they're doing some of the same thing. But we were the originator, and we take that category really serious. We're always constantly paying attention and seeing what the next steps may be, and that's for the street use, for the track use, and things like that. So it's a big part of who we are. We're in a lot of the big box stores, and we're very, very grateful for that. And they hold our feet to the fire to make sure of, okay, what's coming up next? What do you have now? What's in the pipeline? Things along those lines. So racing is the fun part. Racing is the part that has the big, bright, shiny light on it, the part that we all love. But the step to the street and step to the tow vehicles, that's the important part.
Absolutely. Lex June out there shouting out. Mark is amazing and has a lot of heart for the sport. One of the people you're helping. Blake asks a question, and if you're open to questions, guys,
Sure.
you got a motor oil question for Mark, put it up in the chat. Mark, if you had the chance to race in Top Fuel someday, would you like to do it? So we got Lex, who's racing in Top Fuel, and we got Blake, who wants to know, what about it? Are you a frustrated racer in any way?
Oh, let me just put it this way. I think I know my place. I helped a long time ago. I ran Comp Eliminator with the guy by the name of Joe Castello out of Division 5. And we ran a Biacano dragster, and he begged for me to drive the car. And it's just like, I think I got in at one time and made a pass, and it was just like, nah, you know what? I know my place. I'm okay. I love the starting line. I love working on things. So, but I did get a chance to warm up a Top Fuel car one time, and it was phenomenal. It was seriously cool.
Yes, that I have not had that experience. I'm honestly, I'm a little afraid. Right. A little afraid. I wouldn't want to mess something up, or I wouldn't want to be responsible for something that damaged the team, the sound and being in there and, wanted to and all that. I'm sure I could do it, but It seems like a very intense experience.
Yeah, it's like you don't ask the question, "Hey, what's this button do?" as you're pushing the button. That's not
Right.
the thing to do.
Don't do that. Don't
Yeah,
do that. So let's talk
yeah.
nitro oil. Like you guys have got, racing oils and automatic
Uh-huh.
transmission fluids, and I'm going to ask about a few of those fuel additives, something that people can support at home without having a nitro top fuel dragster. But let's talk about nitro oil. What is different about it? I know it's thick, and I know like flash fire suppression and all of that safety is all built in to the oil that you provide your teams.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's we call it nitro 70. So, in the viscosity terms, it rates around a 70 weight viscosity oil. But probably one of the biggest things, Joe, that we constantly have to work on is and I'll tell you, Bobby Lagana challenged me a couple of years ago, and he says, "Hey, Mark," he says, we all know nitro 70 is the oil of choice out here, that folks are using, but we're making so many changes on fuel cars every single year or every single race." He says, "We're pushing the envelope," and his question was, what are you doing with the oil? Are you keeping up with us? Because we don't want to get to the point where we eclipse that point of where the oil's at. And so, when Bobby asks you a question like that, you do some hard looking and searching or whatever and stuff. And so we pay a lot of attention to that, Joe. And probably the biggest thing on nitro oil that we're having to pay attention right now is it goes back to fuel dilution, because the teams are putting so much nitro into the motors that, especially at idle and some of those other times, it's just there's physically no way that the car can burn all the nitro that they're putting into it. So obviously it makes its way into the oil pan, and so it dilutes the oil. So that's a really, really big part of what we pay attention to in nitro 70.
Very interesting. Yeah, like that's an
Yeah.
aspect. So many parts and pieces are
Yeah.
one off. And I know there are some companies working on making some of the parts last longer. And if you think of the evolution of those nitro engines from where they were, say, 20 years ago to where they are now, I think it's
Crazy.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's just like no comparison, of how far they've come. And when you sit and talk with the crew chiefs and learn about what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it, and more important, where they're trying to do it on the racetrack, it's mind-boggling. I mean, you truly have to be, in my opinion, these guys are all like serious engineers. Everybody talks about how many engineers there are on an F1 car and everything else like that. It's like, I would challenge any F1 person whatsoever. Why don't you come try and tune a nitro car, go down the racetrack? Yeah, it's only 1,000 feet, but I'd like to see you try that, because the level of intelligence and planning and thinking is staggering.
It really is. Okay, Walt
Yeah.
says, did Mark just say they moved to Houston, or was he just talking about racing trip? What about that?
No, I moved to Houston. I left Colorado and moved down here to Houston when I took the Red Line Oil job.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's part of
Yeah.
Phillips 66 parent company.
Yep. Parent company Phillips 66, and their headquarters are here in Houston. So this is home. It's taken a little bit to get used to the weather.
What's
Still
that road, Petroleum Alley or something? There's a name for it. What's it called?
Oh yeah, there is. It's oh shoot, I'll think about it. It's like I can't think of what it. Yep, yeah, exactly.
No, I've been there.
Energy corridor.
Energy corridor, right?
There
What
you
did I
go.
call it? Petroleum Alley?
That's
Energy
okay.
corridor. All
Yeah.
of the bigs are right there. Boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom. It's amazing. The people that are, powering the world are all there on one area. All right. So transmission fluid. There's an area that is very important to the sportsman racer, because you're on trans brakes, you're doing different stuff. We don't often talk about redline oil and transmission fluid, but you do transmission fluids. Talk a little bit about that, and who is the clientele? I know a lot of the BMW guys love your stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we offer, when it comes to, let's talk automatic transmission for a second. We offer a broader range of automatic transmission fluids than what most of our competitors do, because we've kind of fine-tuned a lot of it and tried to make it very, very specific. Obviously heat heat is a big problem, especially in the pro mod world. The guys and gals that are doing that twin turbo application, because they have to spool both those turbos up or whatever. Heat is a big deal. It's nothing for transmission fluid in those cars to be pushing the 800-degree mark, as they're staging the car and then run down the track. So transmission fluid is very, very, very sophisticated. We have a series of chemicals and formulas that we use in that. We make, for the comp eliminator or super stock type cars, we have a lightweight transmission fluid where it's just thinner and lighter, still does all the protection that it needs, but it just takes less horsepower to make things operate and things along those lines. So in the automatic transmission fluid world, it's crazy how sophisticated and the characteristics that they all need to be. Manual transmission, same type of deal. We have lots of manual transmission products, and that's where a lot of the BMW folks, it definitely the transmission fluid of choice. Once again, we're PAO ester based, so some of our manual transmission fluids, we actually have to make sure that they're not so slippery. We have to kind of change the additive pack around, because in some applications the synchros don't like something that's crazy slippery. So we do all kinds of testing and all kinds of track testing and bench testing and things like that to make sure that we have that right. And then we lean on our teams, Joe. It's like Bobby Lagana challenged me on Nitro 70. It's like, James Clay at Bimmer World, and his BMW, he's constantly challenging us because, they're going to carbon fiber synchros, or they're doing this or they're doing that, and what type of fluid do we have, or how can we tweak it, to fit this and that. So we rely very heavily on our teams to talk with us and to work with us. Justin at Carmack from Carmack Engineering is just doing a bunch of bench testing on differentials. He makes one of the folks that makes a 11-inch third member differential that I know all the pro mod guys run, a lot of the pro stock guys run. So he's been doing a lot of bench testing on gear fluid. And he's so sophisticated to the point where, he has fluid broke down to which one protects bearings versus which one protects the ring and pinion gear versus which fluids protect both. I mean, he's so sophisticated that he's kind of divided up his rear end to make sure that the right fluid is happening the right way. And so, we've got our 8250 gear oil that seems to be the oil of choice for most all the pro mod rear ends. The Tutaros, they're a big part of helping us develop that and things like that. So, Ty and Todd, we lean on heavily, and we're the factory fill and all the tie drive units with our automatic transmission fluid. So the teams make a huge difference, Joe. We'd be lost without them.
That's the best R&D you're going to do. I mean, obviously you got your laboratory guys, that's like first, but then you got to give it to the racers so that they can try to break it or figure out what is interesting about it. You mentioned too slippery. I've heard that a lot lately, and it was interesting to hear you address it, that there are certain circumstances, like most casual observers might not realize that can be an issue.
Yeah, it definitely can. And we, believe it or not, a lot of times we run into that when people say switch from brand XYZ, ABC or whatever, even on motor oil, they'll fill us up, or they'll fill up their car with redline oil, and they'll give us a call and say, hey, my oil pressure is down. I lost 10 or 15 pounds of oil pressure, whatever number that may be. And so they think, what's going on? Well, it's pressure, oil pressure is when you think about it in its most basic term, it's built up resistance, right? I mean, that's what creates pressure, is built up resistance. So when you switch to something that's more slippery, you're going to have less resistance. Therefore, you're going to end up with, in some cases, less oil pressure. So it's not uncommon for somebody to have to switch, when you switch to a full PAO ester based deal, if you got an external pump, you may have to give it, a quarter of a screw to build some oil pressure back up, or make some changes like that. So yeah, you definitely have to pay attention. And a lot of the OEM stuff, we you got to pay very close attention to how rear ends and transmissions are being made right now, because you can be too slippery, and it can create problems.
Yeah, the rear end issue that we had at the end of last year was
Uh,
knock wood, right? Like knock
Uh,
wood. I haven't heard it. I'm not saying it's not happening, but we haven't been down for it too much.
Yeah, not like it was last year. There's no question about that. So yeah, that was ugly for everybody involved, right? There was no winners in that deal.
Yeah, let's not speak it back into existence.
Yeah, there you go. I'm
okay,
down. I'm with
Mark
you.
Banks with another question for you. This is interesting. Thoughts on motor oil for alcohol funny cars, alcohol supercharged engines, we'll say, and can oil be reused after extracting moisture from oil? So I have heard about guys that like boil their oil and get the moisture out of it because alcohol is so, speaking of dilution, what is your take on all of that?
Well, there's a couple things. We have a lot of alcohol teams out there and it's kind of torn between our 60 weight and our 70 weight. And what most all of them find is that after they make a run, they'll drain out the oil and they'll take the pan and they'll set it aside, and after a period of time, they'll actually see the separation. The alcohol will actually separate from the oil and it'll be a layer on top. And so most teams will pour that off. And then there are definitely teams out there that'll pour that off and just simply reuse that oil for the next run, or they'll take that used oil, pour it in a drum, and take it back to their shop and let it separate a little bit longer over time, and then pour off the alcohol. It works same with our 60 weight and with our 70 weight. In the nitro world, a lot of the teams will have warm up oil, so they'll just keep going back to the same batch for warm up oil, then put fresh oil in, to go down to the racetrack. We definitely have heard a lot of people out there forever and ever and ever have burned off the methanol or the alcohol in the oil. And we get asked that question a lot, and it's kind of one of those deals where it's like, do we endorse doing that? Well, liability wise and as a company wise, there's no way that we can, because there's about 1,000 things that can go wrong. Are there people doing that successfully and using oil over and over again? Yeah, there absolutely is, and that fact doesn't stress us out. It's not hurting the oil in it. It works just fine, but I'll never endorse somebody doing that. There's just a lot of things that could go haywire on you.
No, I understand.
That makes
Right.
sense.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. We want to keep it pure as best as you can. All right. Before we let you go, let's talk a little drag racing 2025. We just kind of got stoked about the Stampede of Speed coming up.
Yeah.
We're going to Pacific Raceways in 2 weeks, Sonoma, Brainerd, Indy, just like that. The countdown is upon us. We're going to be deciding regular season championships. As someone who is out there involved and walking around and keeping up with everybody on a regular basis, what sticks out about drag racing 2025 this season so far?
It's there just seems to be no limit to where these cars are going to go, right? I mean, some of the mile an hour numbers that keep popping up are just, they're awe-inspiring. It's crazy. And like I said, a couple of the maybe mechanical issues that they had last year, obviously it seems to have gotten better, so that's a relief. So it makes better side by side, running and racing. And on a selfish note, I mean, for us, obviously, new to us this year, with the NHRA, is that we came up with that Crew of the Year award and program. And so I'm paying really close attention to that and having a lot of fun. And I hope the crews out there, and I hope all the crew members, kind of appreciate that, because we love our drivers. We love our drivers, but at the end of the day, we're kind of roll up our sleeves crew guys. That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't want to drive a car. I'd rather work on a top fuel car than drive one, because I'm kind of that. So it was really fun when we had the opportunity to come up and do this Crew of the Year program with the NHRA team. So I'm paying close attention to that and look forward to that at the end of the season.
Yes. We get asked that a lot. Like now we got something we got to keep track of. These crew guys are very into it. The most unsung of all personalities in drag racing. You know, they're turning a car 4 times to get to the winner's circle, et cetera, and so on. Any kind of love that we can bestow upon them is a good deal. But now the crew of the year, they're fighting it out for that one.
Yeah, it's just kind of a fun deal that, they hopefully they all get a little bit of coin in their pocket at the end of the year after the bank, or the winning teams do, and stuff. And so it's just kind of fun to see that. But for us as a brand, it was just in a roundabout way, it was just a way of saying, thank you to the crew people that are doing everything. Thank you to the folks that maybe not necessarily on TV all the time and have the chance to talk and things like that. So, as a brand, it cut right to the core of who we are, and it's really, really, really a cool deal.
Absolutely, Roscoe. Underlining our commentary. Crew guys are the best. Yeah. Mark, thank you very much for joining us on WFO Radio. I really appreciate it. It was really cool, granular, how it came together to get together on this deal. But I appreciate it. We've worked really hard to get to where we are as WFO Radio, where people are going to hear Tony Schumacher give a schedule. People are going to hear good and the bad, whatever it is. We're going to talk about it. We're going to acknowledge that it happened, and we're going to try to sort it out and figure out what's right with a passion for drag racing. So I really appreciate you being involved.
Man, it's been an honor, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And we'll see you soon.
Okay, see you guys
later. Mark Beatty, Redline Oil, with us here on WFO Radio. And what's your homework? Go get some water wetter. Right? Depending on your project car, what have you got that dictates what you can get? But I think everybody can use a product like water wetter, which is going to help your cooling system.